Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the In the Mixer podcast. My name is Phil, and I'm here with Michael and Elias, and we've come together today for you to round up some of the recent transfers going into the new Premier League season. So, Michael, Elias, how are you two doing?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, about the same, really.
Tired.
Nice. So it's a good start. As you can see, we are very, up for it and just full of
Professional.
exuberance.
We're rusty though. We're
We are
rusty.
rusty.
It's been a year,
We
right?
come back from a year hiatus. It was about. Wait, when did the Euros finish? Mid July, so it's about a year, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we didn't actually make the start of the season, did we?
Last season actually didn't count.
No,
So
there was
for us,
yeah.
Leicester are still champions.
No,
Congratulations, Danny
I don't agree.
Simpson.
Okay, it's
I don't-
Danny Simpson quality. Fair play. Let's give a round of applause. Danny Simpson.
Oh god.
Anyway, so what we were going to speak about were transfers today, and maybe some things we think are going to happen in the new season. Although it's very early to tell because the transfer window literally opened 9 days ago. So I think the first one we're going to go into is probably the one that broke today. Probably kind of a surprising transfer going into the window, but then as the days went on, it became more and more likely. That is Wayne Rooney to Everton. I wonder what you guys... pick your brains a bit about this one, because it's a very interesting transfer. We don't know... I don't think there's been any talk of the fee or the wages or anything like that. So I just want you two to let me know what you think about this deal from the terms of Rooney, Manchester United and Everton's perspectives.
Well, from Everton's perspective, I think it's a decent deal, depending on how much they've actually paid for him. As you said, I haven't even seen a fee. I haven't seen what kind of contract he has. 2 years, I think it was.
Yeah, it's all
The
2
only thing
years.
I've seen. But if they can get the best out of Rooney, then they got a real gem on their hands, because we all know what he can do when he's at his best.
I think that's like the main thing, though, isn't it? Really, I think what at face value it probably looks like a better deal for Manchester United in that they're getting, obviously the deal we'll discuss later. They're getting Everton's best player in Lukaku, but the sort of, Rooney could obviously once was better than Lukaku is now, but it's Manchester United maybe releasing a lot of wage budget.
I was just about to say that.
But like you said, I know Phil mentioned this on Twitter at some point. There could be some part of the deal that means Manchester United is still paying a certain amount of Rooney's wages per week. For Manchester United, it seems face value the better deal for me. But Everton, if they can get Wayne Rooney playing like Wayne Rooney was 3-4 years ago, then it's the perfect deal for Everton. But it's a more of a short-term deal. Manchester United have got the better long-term deal, definitely.
But where do you think Rooney will play in the Everton team? Will he play up front? Will he play in the number 10 role, which he has been doing the recent years?
That's a very interesting question because, of
Yeah.
course, they got Ross Barkley there who plays in that attacking midfield role. There's also talk of them bringing Gylfi Sigurdsson, and of course they signed Klaassen from Ajax, who are all sort of attacking midfielders. So there was a lot of rotation there and a lot of fighting for positions. So we could see Rooney as a striker or as a backup striker. Are Everton in Europe next season?
No, then I don't.
I'm not sure
did
in
he
the
finish?
Europa League because they finished 7th, right? And obviously United won Europa League, and so I don't know how. But if they are, that's a lot of games they'll have to play, and that's a lot of good players in that squad that they're making. I'm not necessarily sure it's going to be an upgrade if he is a striker or even an attacking midfielder. Although I think Barkley isn't living. I think Barkley was seen as the next Rooney when he was coming through at Everton, and he hasn't quite lived up to that. And it'll be
He's sort of like plateaued, really, isn't he?
I think it'll be interesting to see if he stays, because there's obviously been a talk of him leaving as well.
The most interesting rumor about Everton, I think, and now with this Rooney unveiling, is that there've been talks about and rumors about Giroud joining Everton as well. And seeing as this Rooney transfer came through, are they still interested? Was that even a possibility?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Go on, Michael. Go on.
No, I think like all these questions we're posing about it really does come down to where Wayne Rooney will play. But if they do drop him into midfield, like a more central midfield role, then it does free out them to do more deals in the transfer market to bring in more attacking players. But then, like you said, if Rooney plays at a centre attacking midfield role, which is probably most familiar with, even though he's played around everywhere, seeing him in midfield to striker recently. They're going to have a lot of options, and I don't think that's always a good thing to have too many options.
They did sign Sandro from Malaga, which was a very shrewd signing. I think that was just around 5 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, £4.2 million. I think that's a steal.
Yeah, he had quite a
what he's done.
Quite a good season last season. A former Barcelona reject, which they have had decent success with in the past, with like Deulofeu and things. But the interesting thing with the Giroud rumours, I think Everton are in that point where they're signing so many players, is that any player sort of in the upper echelon of Premier League talent is probably going to be linked with them now, if anyone is unrested or anything like that. So
yeah, they've become that in-between team almost, haven't they? In between like the top four and the rest of the Premier League in terms of transfers. So all those like up-and-coming players will be like linked with them, I think. All those players that sort of like mediocre transfer values, if you understand what I mean by that. Not the £100 million, whatever, but sort of the 20 to sort of 50 million region.
This is the thing with the Everton signings, though, is how much have they actually improved their squad? Sorry, not their squad, but their actual starting 11. Because when you think Lukaku's left, I mean, people have their opinions on Lukaku. He definitely is a proven Premier League goal scorer at that level. So it's whether they've improved enough to push into that. They obviously want to push for that top four eventually. It's whether they're going for that next season and whether they've signed enough players, good enough players, to actually push for that next season. I don't know what you think, if they've got any chances of top four. Obviously, it's early days, but
top four is so difficult to break into because of the money within the top four, or even top five now, really, are those teams. But Everton, obviously, with the sale of Lukaku, are going to have a significant transfer budget. But I think, given the transfer that they've already made, they've significantly improved their squad towards going towards top four. Whether they'll make it is like if those players play well together, and how, because I do see a lot of attacking players that they've signed more than sort of defensive. So it's whether they can get the lineup right and get the squad right, playing right, especially with juggling Europe if they're in the Europa League, to sort of get that right. But like I said, the breaking into the top four, there's a top five of teams that have significantly better finances and funding to be able to make, and like reputation to be able to make the bigger transfers. So it's going to be difficult, and better squads already. So
I think it's going to be interesting as well with Everton, what happens to those young players the fans were so excited about, like Tom Davis and is it Ademola Lookman, I think is his name. So it's going to be interesting to see if those players are still getting chances with these high profile names coming in. Another two signings we haven't mentioned for them, Michael Keane and Jordan Pickford, definitely going to be in their starting 11. Elias, what do you think of Pickford and Keane as signings for Everton?
Pickford has really shown he's a keeper to be reckoned with, and Michael Keane is just a solid centre-back. There's nothing really much to say about him. He does the job, and I think it's a really good signing, even though it's for, what was it, £28 million or whatever it was reported.
Basically 30 rounded,
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but not in modern football money, I think.
Like English centre back, it's English Irish centre back, whatever.
And Jordan Pickford, they've needed a first team keeper for quite a while now, I think, with Tim Howard leaving.
They've sort of just been settling for Joel, haven't they? So
Joel and Stekelenburg.
Yes, exactly. So they needed someone that they could say, "Here's the transfer fee. We've spent it on a first team goalkeeper."
And he'll be their keeper for a long time.
Definitely. Definitely. And I think they've been really, really smart with the signings so far. Even though they spent a lot of money. I think it's 98 million euros or something like that thus far. And selling Lukaku, they might even be able to spend some more if their owners allow him.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing with the Lukaku money. Is it like when Spurs sold Bale and they signed the Magnificent Seven? If it's that money being reinvested at this point, and they can't sign anyone else with that Lukaku money, I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they do sign more players, like you say. But what do you guys think of the Lukaku sign? Let's move on to Manchester United. It's big money. It's a transfer that is just captured all the media and everything, and he is very much the focal point of this transfer window at this moment in time.
Lukaku, we all know he can score goals in the Premier League, but he is really inconsistent in my eyes. We saw that at Everton last season. He scored a lot of goals, but not necessarily against the biggest teams. He scored against Man City both legs, I think, or both ties. But other than that, most of his goals were against lower down the league teams.
Yeah.
But he's a known goal scorer in the Premier League now, and he's very young, so it's a look towards the future as well for Manchester United, who also signed Lindelof, the Swedish centre back, earlier in the transfer window.
Yeah, well, obviously you know a lot about Lindelof. Do you want to? I think you spoke his praises going into the Euros in that podcast so very long ago. Do you want to give us a bit of an insight as a Swedish national?
A very good centre back with the ball at his feet. Pretty strong, pretty tall. Just a very modern centre back, I would say. Been getting a lot of praise down when we played in at Benfica, and hence why Mourinho wanted to bring him in. And just like he's more of a playmaker from the back, and I think that's what Mourinho saw with him, because now he's got Bailly and Smalling, Blind, whatever you want to throw in that centre back. I don't know how many defensive lineups Mourinho put up last season, but I think he'll slot right in there to become more of a anchor man. Could potentially even play in centre defensive midfield because he's so good with the ball.
We saw a lot of teams playing free at the back last season, so that will give them that option with Smalling and Bailly if they want to move into that. Going back to Lukaku, Michael, do you think a lot was said about Lukaku in his time at Chelsea? Perhaps it was Mourinho that didn't like him, that forced him out. Do you think that's going to be a problem at Manchester United, or do you think he's going to flourish under Mourinho? Because Mourinho obviously wants him, hence the signing got him through. Do you think this is going to enhance him as a player and make him into that world-class striker that is world-renowned as one of the best?
Well, I was literally just about to say that I think it'd probably be an age difference that might make the difference, in that he's probably more of a mature player and person now, but obviously him being arrested in Los Angeles kind of contradicts that. I was just thinking about it in my head. I thought that doesn't quite work. But no, I think he might have matured as a player, like attitudes and sort of like training styles, whatever, which may make a huge difference. And I think I know Elias sort of criticises inconsistencies, which is I kind of agree with, but he still scored a goal every 2 matches on average at Everton, which is still in the Premier League. A team like Everton, I know he was their main sort of talisman goal scorer, but I still think that's a really good record in the Premier League to keep up for in the 2 years he was there. So I think it's maybe I won't say it's an overhyped or underhyped signing. I think his Everton form will probably continue at United, and I think it's a good signing. I think it's an expensive signing, but it's what you have to pay for a prime age striker these days. We can't forever go on talking about the fees so much, etc., because every transfer fee is going to be talked about like that. It's just modern football transfer fees are that expensive.
Yeah, we repeatedly said this going into last season in our transfer episodes, that the fees don't really matter anymore. But Lukaku looks like it's going to be 75, possibly rising to 100 million over the time. But it's interesting what you say about Lukaku. He did only score against the poorer teams last season, but you could argue that's what Manchester United need. Because last season they
want to beat everyone below them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think they are. If you think last season they were one goal a game, like if they beat those teams, they're going to be right up there next season. I think Mourinho knows that. This signing, perhaps he sees it as more safe than the Morata signing, who isn't proven in the Premier League, wasn't getting a lot of first-team opportunities last season. I'm not sure. Obviously, I don't know the politics going on there and whose decision it was to sign Lukaku over Morata or anything like that. But Lukaku is a patchy goal scorer. You say it was a goal every 2 games or whatever, but he doesn't tend to score. Like, he'll have a lot of games where he'll score like 3 or 4, but then he'll have a lot of games where he won't score, and I think that's the problem. But if he does get them goals against the poorer sides, which is what Manchester United need, and then who else were they looking to sign at striker? Well, obviously they've got Rashford and players like that who can step in for them big games if Lukaku isn't up for it. So it's very much a player that's going to enhance that squad hugely.
And there's still rumour to be signing Ibrahimovic if he returns from injury for another year.
Oh, really?
And I know I saw that this morning. In that if he does recover from his injury, they will offer him another year's contract. And a player can't. I know the injury it was huge for him, but he's not going to like one of the world's best players is not going to just fall off the face of the earth in over summer. Like he still will be able to compete at a high level. So it's an alternative, like you said, with Rashford.
Yes, I think he's having his rehabilitation at Manchester United, isn't he? I think so. They're obviously keeping an eye on him. Yeah. I don't know how his previous contract, his 1-year extension, would work. Whether they'd have to offer him a completely new contract. And...
I think that's how it is. I don't think he had the option of an extension with his previous contract. That's all. That's what I've seen. I don't know 100%. That's what I've seen is that it would have to be a completely new year's contract to be offered.
Okay, from one side of Manchester, then, do you want to hop to the other area occupied by the Sky Blues? A lot of changes at Man City. A lot of old names going out the door. Zabaleta leaving, Clichy, Sanya. A lot of players that have been seen as quite safe hands. Last season didn't do it for Guardiola, obviously. He's released a lot of players. He's bringing in Bernardo Silva and Ederson from Benfica. Looks like they're going to get Dani Alves as well. What do you, Elias, think of their business so far?
Really interesting signings, I think. Bernardo Silva, from what I've seen from last season's Champions League, it's a player to be reckoned with. Like his vision and his dribbling is just, it's a behold to watch. And even though I'm not a City fan, I'm really looking forward to seeing him play. And Ederson, I'm not really sure about. I don't know. I haven't seen him play. I haven't seen anything from him. So that's one for me to wait for and see. Hopefully it'll be another Bravo signing from a Chelsea perspective. But that's what I have to say about that.
That's the signing that sort of questions me. It's just sort of another goalkeeper, and is it going to be same story again? And is the blame always going to be sort of with goalkeepers and etc.?
I think this Ederson signing definitely sees Joe Hart going either back on loan or being sold. Willy Caballero, of course, left and has been picked up as a reserve keeper for Chelsea, which I think is a very astute signing.
I think that's a brilliant signing. I think he could have probably been first team. Well, he was sort of in the cup runs. He was a first team player for City, and I think he's capable of. If a team like Bournemouth, for example, were to sign him as their first team keeper, it'd be an incredible signing. To have him as a backup is I think it's a really good signing for Chelsea.
Caballero's definitely gone to Chelsea to get a couple of winners' medals and trophies in his cabinet. But going back to the Ederson signing, it'll be interesting to see if this is like one's a European Cup goalkeeper and one's a league goalkeeper in relation to Ederson and Bravo. This signing obviously doesn't show much confidence in Bravo from Guardiola's perspective. Do you read anything else into that, you guys, or do you think it doesn't actually? Ederson will go into next season as number one. Do you think?
I feel like it's an opportunity just taken by Guardiola and the City team when a 23-year-old international goalkeeper comes up and wants to. I don't know if he wanted to leave Benfica or City just made an offer for him because. Yeah, he's a top-class keeper.
I think that's the more likely.
Yeah, exactly. And they just took the opportunity to sign somebody because they saw what Bravo did last season. It wasn't really convincing in the City net. And I'm really concerned that they let Caballero go because I think Caballero looked really good last season when he actually was playing. So I think Chelsea have been lucky to get him for free. Since they let Begovic go to Bournemouth earlier.
Well, we can talk about some of Chelsea's business if you want. Mostly players leaving, players like Nathan Ake, Bertrand Traore, who are already out on loan. Chelsea getting some profit for those players they've picked up early in their careers. Jordan Atsu and Cuadrado making their moves to Newcastle and Juventus respectively permanent, and like you said earlier, Begovic going to Bournemouth, but Caballero coming in as that replacement. The Begovic one is interesting. I suppose that's more the player wanted to leave, and I think Chelsea understood what he's given them by sitting on the bench in arguably his prime of his career, and they allowed him to leave to a non-rival. But I think Begovic is definitely a good goalkeeper, but Caballero has more than made up for that. Dominic Solanke, an interesting, going to Liverpool from Chelsea. What do you think of that, Elias? Because I mean, Tammy Abraham has had more of an impact of those lone young Chelsea strikers. What do you think Solanke is actually going to do at Liverpool next season? Do you think he's going to be a bit part player, or he's going to go? Obviously, England winning the Under-20 World Cup. Do you think he's done enough to get pushed into that Liverpool team? Because the striker situation there with Sturridge and Klopp, and it all seems a bit up in the air. So, I mean, anything could happen with that team at the moment.
I'm really not sure what they want to do with that signing, because I'm not sure if they can offer him a starting place or even a backup place. Because Sturridge, he was the backup last season, and he probably will be at the start of this season with Firmino or Mane playing in that front role. So I'm not really sure what they're looking for there. Do they want to keep developing him like Chelsea have done? Send him out on loan? I don't know. I really don't know what they want to do with that signing, because this is a player who demanded, what's it, 50,000 K a week, pounds, and 50,000 K, 50K a week from Chelsea, reportedly, and if his wage demands are the same, if he scores a few goals for Liverpool and signs a new contract, I'm not really sure if this is going to be a financial benefit for Liverpool.
Well, if that story is true, he definitely has belief in himself and his own ability. If he thinks he's worth £50,000 a week at this stage of his career, I think he was at Blackburn on loan last season, possibly. But the tribunal fee, I think there's reports going down that it could be as low as 3 million, but it could be almost as high as 15 million. So we'll see how that goes. And obviously, this signing will be one, possibly not even next season, but in a few seasons' time, we'll see if this is a good or bad deal for Chelsea and Liverpool. Another signing from Liverpool, Mohamed Salah, formerly of Chelsea as well, from Roma for around the 35 million mark. I'm not sure what Salah's adapted to his game at Roma since leaving Chelsea, but I think it's hard because they got Mane in that position. Perhaps last season with a couple of injuries, they're a bit worried about him. Obviously, they have. I was going to say they have Africa Cup of Nations, but then of course Salah is also Egyptian, so I'm not sure it would be that reason. This is a bit of a head scratcher. This one for the fee. I don't know. What do you guys think of the Salah signing? Definitely has potential.
I think I've tweeted Elias about this before. Maybe it's been somebody different, but I don't completely understand it, because, in all honesty, the Italian league is a worse league, and I understand that he's completely excelled there and probably has adapted his game slightly to become more of a goal scorer and just be more prolific, and he's relished the first team opportunities that he's had there. But I think it's always really risky, especially with this transfer fee and them having other players in his position, to sign a player that's left the Premier League because they weren't getting enough game time getting into at the Chelsea team, or to sort of progress their career elsewhere, to then come back to the Premier League because they weren't good enough like before. It just, I don't know, it's a strange one for me, and I don't really know how it's going to go. If he returns with the same form, it could be good, but long term I don't see it being a fantastic purchase. But maybe the transfer fee isn't that much if we're talking about these really expensive transfer fees that are going on. Maybe the transfer fee isn't ridiculously high, it's sort of bang average, but for me it isn't an incredible sign. I think it's slightly been overexcited by Liverpool fans. I think they have to remember that he was just sort of let go from Chelsea almost. Like there was no real hold from them to keep him when he left for Roma.
I'm not sure what happened with the Salah at Chelsea. I'm not sure he was particularly playing badly. Maybe Elias can shed some light on that. But it was more of the Mourinho exodus perhaps at the time. I'm not sure. That's what my memory seems to be saying to me, but I'm not actually 100% sure. But I have a feeling he was playing at right back for some of his time at Chelsea. I can't even remember.
I can't recall that, but seeing him play, it was pretty frustrating. Like, he came in pre-season, showing a bit of new light to Chelsea, like a quick player. We haven't really, we had Hazard on the left wing. We didn't. Willian wasn't really the player he is today, and he came in to bring in another play style. a player that was more attack-minded than support-minded,
Hmm.
to actually go for goal from outside the box, cutting in from his right wing.
Almost second striker kind of role.
Exactly, yeah. But like I can't recall if, because it was quite a while ago he played, but I feel like he got his chances, didn't really make that big of a difference, and then just left pretty quickly. Like I don't see what he would do at Liverpool that Mane can't do.
Hmm.
So I don't know where he slots into that team.
Yeah.
Because Lallana as well had a
Yeah,
really
right.
good season last
agree.
season.
I guess it's rotational because obviously they're going into the Champions League that time this season, so they're going to use that to bring in more players of better quality to build that squad. That Serie A, the players that come in from that division, especially wide players. Obviously, Salah's been in the Premier League before. Was he at Basel before that? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So perhaps not so much him, but we've looked at Cuadrado and Lamelo's not quite gone well for them in the Premier League with bigger clubs. So I guess we'll see how that goes. Speaking of Lamela, you like that segue? We'll move to Spurs. No, we won't. They haven't signed anyone. Never mind.
Well, hey.
Swansea, because they're next up on the page.
Ooh,
Tammy
interesting.
Abraham on loan.
yeah. I think that's a really good piece of business.
Hmm.
Because I think they're going to start playing two up front with Abraham and
Llorente.
Llorente.
Mm.
And I think Abraham is going to flourish with Llorente beside him, because Llorente is a very smart player and can definitely learn a lot from him.
Yeah,
So-
Llorente's so he's like football minded. He's a different kind of player to Abraham, who's like almost very direct and quick, whereas Llorente is almost just sort of, like I said, that football mind. I think it's a brilliant loan signing, especially the form he's had for 2 years now. Abraham, you can't say that it's sort of form. It's almost just that he is playing at a fantastic level when he was playing in the Championship. So pushing that up to, like they say, the top of the Championship is better than the bottom of the Premier League. So we'll see if that improves Swansea. I think it will.
In a parallel universe, these two could be playing up front for Chelsea, of course. So who knows? Who knows? But obviously, he could be looking at Llorente as a player. He perhaps wants to be in the future. Played at the likes of Juventus and Sevilla in his career, so he's going to be looking at him as a player to learn from, like you say. But he's also going to want to prove himself in this division and definitely be in Chelsea's eyes for the upcoming season. The next season, as a player that can lead their line. Especially as we're not sure what's really happening with their attacking options next season. Do you want to talk about that potential, who Chelsea will go into next season with as their striker?
I
Obviously
don't want to
there's a few
speculate.
names going around.
I don't want to speculate too much because I'll just like bring myself down. I've never been a massive Costa fan. Like I enjoy him scoring goals, but most part of his game is just horrible, and I don't know why he is playing at the top level, because he is so bad with the ball. And I just hope we bring in somebody that can link up with Hazard, Willian, Pedro. Just to get like a bit more flowing attacking play, and just not a player that scores goals but also can attribute to the attacking play.
A player that has been linked. Sorry, Michael, did you want to...
No, you go ahead.
Just saying, a player that has been linked with Chelsea and a lot of other Premier League clubs. Belotti of Torino.
I was just about to say.
He's a player who works hard. He's he's going to do a lot of running. He's Italian, so perhaps Conte.
Hernandez?
Excuse me.
Would they take Hernandez, do you think?
Wait, which?
Abel.
Oh, Chicharito.
Chicharito, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Abel Hernandez. Oh,
Reminded me of the like that FIFA vine where the guy was coming out of a cream and he went, Pablo Hernandez. Come on, the background, Hernandez. Yeah, of course. I mean, Chicharito.
Yeah, Chicharito, Belotti, Morata, or you could go into next season, Ellis, with Batshuayi or Giroud. You could be that lucky.
Oh, not Giroud.
Sanchez. I wouldn't take Giroud.
Sanchez, yeah.
Sanchez is a good shout. Like
I mentioned that to you.
It makes sense.
Just a few days ago.
But yeah.
I would love that signing because he's from Arsenal, and
I could see that rumor if that transfer doesn't happen, which is unlikely but possible. That rumor will pop up. I guarantee
Yeah.
that rumor will pop up. And of course, those clubs have done business in the past. Gallas, Cole, Not necessarily Arsenal's decision to make for that business, but hey.
Well, we've been in the winning seat for both those transfers, so I'm not very pessimistic towards who we're gonna sign if we sign somebody, if Costa doesn't stay and stuff. But I just hope that something good comes up. So
Yeah. Unfortunately, Michael's going to have to leave us. So, yeah, we'll say goodbye to him. Oh, are you going to say goodbye?
Me, guys. It's almost like I'm a guest, but no, I'll be back. Of
Same
course,
time next week.
So exactly.
Possibly.
So, from me, this is not the end of the podcast. Please don't leave. Thank you for tuning back into our returning episode, and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Goodbye, Michael.
That was a good ending.
So he's completely ruined my segue, because obviously Chelsea are on the end of those Arsenal-Chelsea deals. But at the winning side of the Arsenal deals are Arsenal. Wait, I don't know. Anyway, Arsenal have signed Lacazette and Kolasinac.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What do you think of those signings?
Well, like I said, proven goal scorer. I don't think they've done a bad deal there. £45 million reportedly. Don't think that's a bad deal in today's money. He's 26. He's not old. Like he's got at least 5, 6, 7 years left playing at his prime. So if they get a great effect out of him, I think he'll be one of the best strikers in the Premier League. But it's also an Arsenal player, so I'm not hoping for the best.
Arsenal, of course, have been criticised for signing players young, so signing a player like Lacazette, who is currently 26 and in the prime of his professional career, definitely optimistic for their fans. What do you think of the Kolasinac signing? I haven't personally seen much. Shame that Michael's just gone because he's a big Schalke fan. Bad timing, but yeah, what do you think of that signing? I know he's a left back. I haven't actually seen him much. But do you know anything?
I don't have much to say about him either. I haven't really picked up anything from when he's been playing. I feel like he's more of a defensive-minded left back, but I might be wrong. But basing on his stature and length, I would say he's more defensive-minded. But I might be completely wrong here. But he feels like more defensive than if you would say like put in Kieran Gibbs attacking. And even if Arsenal are going to play a 4-back next season, or we're going to play a 3/5-back, we're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, they ended the season with the 3 at the back. Obviously, played the FA Cup final with the 3 at the back, which they beat Chelsea, of course. Would if Kolasinac, I can't even say his name now. I'm literally looking at it on the screen. Kolasinac is literally going to be playing in that position, and perhaps, I'm not really sure, it's all speculation, but if he can or can't play that more attacking up and down the left wing position, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. Moving down to Bournemouth, they've made some good signs. We haven't really spoken about Begovic. Do you want to give a bit of an insight on Begovic and what he's going to bring to Bournemouth? Obviously, sort of same as Everton, we've struggled with goalkeepers in recent seasons, despite impressing in the Premier League since they joined.
Well, I think it's a good signing because Boruc, he hasn't really brought anything to Bournemouth. They haven't been able to compete and actually move up the table. They've been staying in that lower half of the table, just like progressively going up like 1 or 2 placements every year they've been in the Premier League. But I think Begovic, he's a top keeper, and he showed that at Stoke, and he showed that a few times at Chelsea. But he feels a bit inconsistent to me as well, because he started off the season really shaky at Chelsea when he got the chance, when Courtois was injured with his hand injury. But he's definitely a good signing for Bournemouth. If you would say that Bournemouth getting promoted and signing Begovic in 4 years' time, or 5 years' time, whatever it is now, I wouldn't have believed you. So Begovic, definitely a good signing for them. But I'm more interested in what Defoe can do another year in the Premier League.
Defoe, of course, they got the likes of Josh King and stuff, and Callum Wilson still. But Defoe definitely gives that experience and that goal scoring pedigree, the proven track record. Obviously, he's getting on a bit now. Is he 36 maybe? I think.
34.
34. Oh, so he's not that old, but a player that has relied so much on his pace in the past. Obviously, at Sunderland last season, he showed that he's not all about the pace. He's very much that fox in the box striker, and I think with this signing, Bournemouth he will be their number one striker going into next season. Would you agree with that, or?
Definitely. With Josh King going out to his left wing position again, if they don't start playing with two up front, traditional style.
Yeah. And of course, they signed Nathan Ake on a permanent deal. Not much to say about that because he was there last season, but a good deal, I think. I'm not sure. Have you heard any rumours of a Chelsea buyback clause or anything like that?
I would say like even though I haven't seen anything about it, but I think there definitely is a buyback clause because I don't think they would let him leave that cheaply for 19 or 20 million pounds.
20.
Yeah, I don't think they would let him leave that cheaply because he has shown he can do it in the Premier League, and he's only 22 years old, so he's got the future ahead of him.
So definitely
Really versatile player as well. Yeah.
Definitely some sort of sell-on percentage there, definitely, at least, to benefit Chelsea. We'll go on. We'll just go alphabetical order through the teams now. There's not really any huge transfers that are jumping out. Go into Premier League new boys Brighton. They've signed Pascal Gross from Ingolstadt, Josh Kerr from Celtic, and Matthew Ryan from Valencia. Not much knowledge on these three players. But the teams they're coming from are of a high standard, so I'd assume they're definitely going to improve Brighton. But I'm not sure out of the three teams coming up, Brighton probably need the least improvement, I'd say. Because they definitely have more potential to grow with players like Knockhart and people like that. So, I don't know, do you agree? Or?
I haven't really been keeping an eye on Brighton, and I'm not really sure. I know they finished second. I think they got... I think they... Last day they got knocked down by Newcastle. Yeah. I've never really seen them play in the recent years, so I can't comment on that. But Matthew Ryan, he's been linked to Liverpool a few years ago, when he came to Valencia. That's all. That's all I know about him. I don't really know anything about the other players they brought in.
Okay, so sorry, Brighton fans. We get in touch if you want. We're in the mixer on Twitter, and tell us what you think of those players, and we'll share your opinions in the next episode. Burnley signed Jonathan Walters from Stoke.
It's such a Burnley signing, isn't it?
It's a very nice signing. I like Jonathan Walters. Don't like to see him leaving the Premier League just yet. We'll move down to Palace. Haven't signed anyone either. A few players go on loan. Released a few players. Zeki Friars, Flamini, Fraser Campbell, Benteke's brother. Joe Ledley as well left, so not too much to talk about there. Yeah, just getting a few players off their wage budget. Huddersfield, who have signed a lot of players. Mooney from Montpellier.
Really interesting. Yeah.
Deportre from Porto. Moy on a permanent from Man City. Tom Ince. Jorgensen from Copenhagen, and Lossell from Mainz. I don't really know much about those previously mentioned one, but you say their signs are interesting, Elias. What do you mean by that?
Tom Ince has been a player been linked for many years now, playing in the Championship and been linked to Premier League teams, and it's really going to be interesting to see him playing at the top level now for once. And the most interesting signing of those, I think, is Deportre, because that's a centre tank that they have signed. So. Are they what are they looking to play? Are they looking to play as they did last season? Are they looking to change something up for the Premier League? Are they going to be a defensive team? Are they going to be an attacking team?
No. Obviously, Wagner came from the Dortmund setup. It's good, knows Klopp. So I think he very much plays that Gegenpress attacking style of football. So we'll see how that works with a team that hasn't got that experience in the Premier League. I think Huddersfield are going to struggle next season. It's kind of hard because you haven't got those teams like last season where you had Sunderland, where it's like, oh, they're definitely going down. It's actually quite tighter at the bottom now. There's not a huge disparity between the sort of mid-table and bottom teams. There's quite a big chunk of teams now that are going to be caught up in that dogfight at the bottom. Obviously, that's going to change as the transfer window goes on, but we'll see. I think Brighton are gonna have a good start. I think Huddersfield, as the season go on, will get better, and the other team who come up, Newcastle. Well, we'll talk about Newcastle now. They signed Atsu permanently. They signed Luane from IBA. I'm not sure who that is. Sorry, but Newcastle are going to have an interesting season next season because they always have drama around that club, especially recent years. So if they start badly and the headlines start coming in, Benitez, who his position at that club is always kind of, in question almost. You feel like he could leave any week. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting when it comes to them next season, I think. But
Yeah, definitely. And then they got CMD on back from loan, I think, as well, and see if he can do anything for his club. They signed him when they got back into the Premier League, or they were in the Premier League last time, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he did much for them.
He did nothing. They also got. I actually thought they would get Thauvin back, but they've actually sold him on to Marseille because he had a really good season last season. So that's a bit of a shame that they had to do that.
It's just one of those players where it didn't quite work out. They'll have Tim Krul back next season, I think. As their first choice goalkeeper. Yeah,
Tim Krul can be very good, can be very shaky. He's still only 29 years old, so that's no no age for a goalkeeper. So we'll see what they do with that, if they're going to sign somebody else or if they're going to keep him as their first choice goalkeeper. They got a few, they've been playing with up-and-coming goalkeepers for quite a while now.
Is it Carl Darlow they've been playing in goal, I think? I think it's Darlow. Sure. I think it is. Could be wrong. He could have left ages ago, not sure. But they had Matt Sells last season, not sure how much he played. He's gone out on loan to Anderlecht, so he won't be there next season. So we'll see as time goes on. We'll move on to recent Premier League champions Leicester, who signed Vincent Iborra, or Vicente Iborra. Is it Vicente or Vicente?
Vicente.
But Iborra is a very good signing. Very versatile down the middle. He's going to give him a lot, I think, actually. I think he's going to be a very good signing. I'm not sure how he played against them when they played in the Champions League, Sevilla and Leicester. I can't really recall. But
yeah, he was very... I remember that was the first time I was going to watch Iborra because I've seen quite a bit from him, and I was not impressed when they played Leicester. He was very, very silent and invisible, so...
And so with that whole Sevilla team in that second leg, really.
Yeah. The signing I'm really looking forward to is Harry Maguire, because Harry Maguire for Hull was he was something else for that whole team. He was somebody who was going to keep them up if he had a few more quality players around him. But I think that's really good business. £10 million for an English 24-year-old centre back.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
I think there are a few big clubs after his signature, I think, Maguire, so Leicester doing well to get him done and dusted and over the line pretty quickly. Not too many other big transfers to talk about. One that was quite a hefty fee for the player, I believe, was West Brom signing Jay Rodriguez for £50 million. A lot of money, really, for that sort of position in the table, like a mid-table team, signing the player for 50 million, who is very much injury prone and hasn't, since he got that big injury when he was doing really well for Southampton when they had Lallana and Lambert still there, he hasn't really come back into the fray. So perhaps this West Brom move will be what he needs to revitalise his career as a Premier League player.
Yeah, I like when Southampton got promoted to the Premier League again. Jade Rodriguez was one of their better players, and it was really a shame that he got those major injuries and just kept getting injured all the time, because he's really a player that is really fun to watch when he gets going. He could probably... I feel like that's just West Brom signing, like Hal Robson-Kanu last season. He just signed somebody that oh yeah, he had a great Euros, let's sign him. This is a guy, and then Jay Rodriguez, this is a guy who's been decent in the past. Let's give him a go, just to see if they can get that top quality back again.
Well, he was obviously available, and I don't think it would have been much hassle to get him in. So maybe Pulis just wanted to sign in over the line early. I'm not really sure. West Ham signing Zabaleta. What's your opinions on that one?
Good experience, right back, but feels like he's a great football mind, but his legs are getting older, of course, as he is. Not that quick anymore, but very smart player. So I think, he's better than. I think he'll do a better job than Sam Byram on that right back position, at least for 1 year. See, do you know how long the contract is?
No, I think it's probably just 1 year, with an option to extend, probably on West Ham's part. But yeah, I think he'd be happy to stay at West Ham if he was playing regularly for a longer basis than just 1 year. But yeah, like you say, it's an experienced signing. I think that's probably what West Ham need, because they really had trouble with their fullbacks last season. Cresswell, when he came back from injury, wasn't the player he was before. Was it Masuka they had, who really wasn't a defender? They had Byram on the right, and I can't remember their other fullback, their right back. Who played there? I can't think about it. I'll be here for ages.
Arbeloa.
Arbeloa, that's it. Yeah, didn't really. But in the same mould as Zabaleta, perhaps he was more past it than Zabaleta is at this time of his career. So, I mean, I'm a big fan of Zabaleta. Man City fans are a big fan of his. So I'm sure he'll do well at West Ham and get on the fans' good side. We'll go to Watford last. They made a few signings. Will Hughes, who gets his transfer to the Premier League after about 10 years, what it feels like. Tom Cleverley also signing from Everton. So a new midfield partnership there for Watford, perhaps, which probably isn't where they need to strengthen. They definitely need a new striker, I believe, because losing those goals from Agallo last season, where he didn't kick on and then, of course, left in January, they definitely missed the goals they had from their first season in the Premier League, where they really impressed as an attacking outfit.
Yeah, and I don't really know where they need to strengthen Watford. Probably a bit of squad depth, like a bit more squad depth. But they also need somebody that actually scores, 15, 20 goals a season. That is not Troy Deeney, because I can't see him scoring that many goals for this many seasons ever again, because he's a good player for them, but I've never really seen him as Premier League standard.
No, I see what you're saying. He's definitely a different build. Obviously, they bring in Hull City's manager Marco Silva, so it's interesting what he's gonna do. But Troy Deeney seems to me to be Mr. Watford. That time he was dropped and then almost kicked out. What was they keep my egg? What's their goal manager's name?
Watford's lost.
Yeah,
Matsari,
that's it. Sorry. You can tell this podcast is getting late on. I'm making so many mistakes, but yeah, I'm a big fan of Marco Silva. I think a lot of people are, after what he did at Hull, really improved that team. But unfortunately, the damage was already done there. They went down. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what he can do at Watford, given a whole season. I'm not sure how much more money he's going to get to spend, but we'll see. Definitely think they need a striker, but yeah, we'll see what comes. There's definitely a lot more time in this window for deals to get done, and I don't think any clubs at this moment in time can really be panicking.
One interesting thing is they got Mario Suarez back from his loan from Valencia, to see what they do with him, because he's a decent center mid if he gets going. But of course, Matsari loaning him out last season because he wasn't really a first team contender, and when Berame and the other the other centre mids that they had, I can't remember now, but Mario Suarez, that signing 2 seasons ago was really surprising for me. So I'm curious to see what he can do if he gets the chance again. They decide to keep him.
We'll see. We'll see what fruit that bears. The last signing we'll talk about in the Premier League, Darren Fletcher to Stoke.
Darren.
I mean, he's got experience in that midfield. Him and Charlie Adam just going to be tearing it up with their pace. I suppose we'll end this podcast on one of the more surprising transfers. You probably know where I'm going with this, Elias. John Terry to Aston Villa. Do you want to give your 2 cents on that before we call it a day?
Well, I don't really have that much to say. It's Mr. Chelsea, pretty much. I'm happy he didn't go to another Premier League team. I'm happy he didn't go abroad, because I think he's still got things to do in English football. And it's a very good signing for Aston Villa. Didn't really look that good at the end of last season when he got a bit of game time, but that's probably because he wasn't very match fit. They just wanted to give him a few last games for Chelsea, and he'll definitely be back in the future.
You talk about his fitness. He only lasted 26 minutes on the last game of the season, so.
Oh yeah.
So obviously he's struggling. It's going to be interesting to see how it works. Championship's such an intensive league. There's a lot of fit, quick strikers in there. See how he does. He's definitely not going to play all 46 games, I don't think. But
no.
We'll see what he can give to that Aston Villa side. We'll talk more about Championship in Europe and the transfers that are going to happen between now and next week. If we are around next week, hopefully we are. If not, we'll be a couple of weeks or whenever we get the next one out. But thanks for listening. Goodbye from Michael, who's not here anymore. Goodbye from Elias.
Rest in peace.
And goodbye from me. And we'll see you next time in the Mixer. Bye.
See ya.